Good morning, students. Warm welcome to everyone on a lovely Friday morning. Good weather outside. If you're at home, the weather is good, basically. Good morning, students. Yes, I can hear myself. Welcome to everyone. I can hear myself on the app, not yet on YouTube though. If you're at home, the weather is good, basically. Good morning, students. Yes, I can hear myself. Good morning, students. Yes, I can hear myself on the app on YouTube as well. So, welcome everybody. Let us begin our topic. Today, we are going to cover the third class of September current affairs. It's a four-class series. So, today is the third of the four-part series. But before I proceed with the class, there's a number at the bottom of the screen which I wanted to share with you guys. 96500529004. Please feel free to call us here. The counselors will be happy to um, help you with information. We are also starting a new batch which has these three teachers, Mr. Vinod Shankaran, Mr. Ankur Tomar, and Mr. Ankit Sharma. So they are the three teachers. Please feel free to take up some trial classes as well, because you can see on the left hand side of the screen we do have trial classes. So do follow us here. Right. So I'm now going to begin with the session proper. Right. Do write a hello or something, whoever is there. Okay. So September current affairs. I'm now starting with the content of the class. Right. The first thing I wanted to talk about is about the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha, is the upper house. We have the Lok Sabha, where the members are directly elected by the people, like you and me. The other is the Rajya Sabha, where members are elected by the representatives. Okay, so Rajya Sabha is the Sabha of the Rajyas, of the states. So they have passed the salaries and allowances of ministers amendment bill, which has gone for a 30% reduction of the members of parliament, and this is something the Lok Sabha had proposed and already passed. Then the Rajya Sabha also passed it, and then finally the president has also signed it. So it did come into effect last year. There was a 30% reduction. In fact, the MP lad had also been suspended for a while. I'll just write down this term once on the chat window of the app. So MPLAD, which stands for Member of Parliament, Member of Parliament, Local Area Development. So this is a fund that every MP receives. Similarly, MLAs receive an MLA LAD, Member of Legislative Assembly, Member Local Area Development, right? So this is something which obviously this was also suspended for a while due to the massive economic crisis that we were facing last year, in addition to the obvious health issues. Right. The bills, meanwhile, sorry, have the provision, as I said, to cut the salaries by 30% of the members of parliament. Meanwhile, the world's first hydrogen-powered yacht, these are crafts which were historically run by wind energy, but now increasingly we also have electricity being used and other sorts. So here, hydrogen is being used. Hydrogen is one of the cleanest sources of energy. Please understand that hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. So easy to acquire. On Earth, nitrogen is most. In the universe, it's hydrogen. Basically, outside the Earth, if you go, it is mostly hydrogen and helium. In space, I mean, until you reach the celestial bodies like planets and stars or comets. But generally, in space, where there's nothing, it's mostly hydrogen and helium. Right. So it's the first hydrogen powered yacht which has been developed. इसका साइड इफेक्ट बहुत कम रहता है, उसको जिसको कहते हैं ना रेसिड्यू. सो दैट इज वाई ये एनवायरनमेंट के लिए बहुत ही अच्छा है. हैव यू गाइस हर्ड ऑफ दिस प्लेस कॉल्ड मोनाको? आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग ऑफ द बिस्किट. आई एम So it's a tiny principality surrounded by France on most sides. Principality का मतलब है a territory which is ruled by a prince. A kingdom is ruled by a king. An emirat is ruled by an emir. Democracy is ruled by the demo, the people of the country. So demos, that's the Greek term for people. So Monaco का location देखना, it's a tiny country, one of the smallest in the world, population of well under a lakh. There are lots of outsiders though. So it's a country which attracts the richest people on earth. And so its location is in southern France, very near Italy, surrounded by water. I think the Mediterranean Sea, or I think the Corsican Sea on one or two sides. The rest is by France. ठीक है, there is of course free movement within and outside from France and from Italy, so that is not an issue. Yeah, right. Let's move ahead. So it's a 376 feet long aqua yacht. It's called Aqua, which has been designed by a Dutch company called Sino. Do you know who are the Dutch people? Very low participation today, unfortunately. Dutch are the people of the Netherlands. Some of you may have heard of this country. So the Netherlands, European country. Right, I'll just delete the ink. Okay, let's move ahead. There's some more content. Okay. Meanwhile, India's Coast Guard Academy will be established at Mengaluru. I think everybody knows the purpose of the Coast Guard. This is, as the name suggests, to guard the coastline of India. It is a paramilitary body. You know, the Coast Guard, it reports to the Home Ministry, although the Defense Ministry also, unlike some of the other paramilitary bodies, here the Defense Ministry does exert some form of control. Right. So the first this thing a complete academy dedicated to the Coast Guard. This has been established in Mengaluru. Mengaluru is in Karnataka. It is right on the border with Kerala. In fact, Mengaluru is a very important city for the Indian Navy. Uh, because Mengaluru, I don't know. Okay, so we'll discuss geography in one of the classes. But geography में अगर आप पढ़े, इंडिया का जो कोस्ट लाइन है, जो पेनिनसुलर इंडिया है, it is divided into different coastlines. So we have the Kathiawar coast, which is in northwest Gujarat. We have the northern Sircars, which is around Odisha. We have the Coromandel coast, which is around Tamil Nadu and southern Andhra. We have the Malabar, which is mostly Kerala, and we have the Konkan coast, which is for the most for Goa, southern Maharashtra, and most of Karnataka. So Mangaluru is the point where the distinction between the Konkan coastline and the Malabar coastline comes out. So this is the transition zone. So very important the waters are. These names have been given not just for the sake of it. There's a reason the waters change somewhat. There's a difference in the channels as well. So very important location, strategic location. It's a bit like Gibraltar is for the Mediterranean. Similarly, Mangaluru has that thing for the coastline of Karnataka. Okay, so this total area is worth 158 acres of land. This land has been, it's obviously government thing. So land has also been procured by the government, by the KIA DB. Yeah, I can see a few students have joined on the app and on YouTube. Well, do say a hello. KIADB stands for the Karnataka Industrial Areas Development Board. Right. Meanwhile, the first ever direct cargo ferry service has been launched between India and Maldives. So this has been jointly e-launched digitally. मैं आपको लोकेशन दिखाऊंगा. सो Maldives आप जानते हैं इंडिया के साउथ वेस्ट में है. So this is, let's say, peninsular India. This is the state of Kerala. This is Lakshadweep. This is Maldives, and this is Sri Lanka. So I'll tell you the points, and that'll fascinate you in some ways. This is the route. Tuticorin, which is in Tamil Nadu, and note down that is on the Bay of Bengal. Then it comes to Kochi, which is in Kerala, and it is on the Arabian Sea. While they pass through, they go through the Fox Strait. So Bay of Bengal, Pok Strait, crossing over to the Indian Ocean, to the Arabian Sea, and then to Malé, the capital of Maldives, which is on the Indian Ocean. So actually four water bodies being covered. That again makes it rather significant. Good morning, Harsh. I'll just put down the points once again. Four water bodies covered, and which are they? I'll just note them down. So one of them, the first one is Bay of Bengal, that's Tuticorin. Then we have the Pok Strait. The Pok Strait में कोई point नहीं है, वहां से pass करते हैं. And then there is the Arabian Sea, of course, Arabian Sea, and finally we have the Indian Ocean. ठीक है, तो ये चार points है, right, Harsh? Okay, let's move ahead then. Okay, some more of the points. So Apple meanwhile will launch its first online store in India at Mumbai. Some of you might wonder if it's an online store, then what is the location for the name of the place to be mentioned? That's because obviously it will cater to a certain crowd, because if you want to do orders and stuff of maybe even phones and devices, then obviously you need a physical location for it. That's what I love about current affairs classes, the way we flip topics so quickly. Anyway, the world's first bionic eye to fully restore vision among visually challenged people has been performed by scientists in Australia. Bionic eye, biologically it has been restored. So people who are visually challenged, or blind as we used to call them, now visually challenged is a more politically correct term. So for them, this is useful. This has been done by the Monash University, which is in Melbourne, which is the state of Victoria in Australia. Right, Harsh? I think one more person has joined the app. Okay, meanwhile, there are two sub lieutenants. One is Kumudini Tyagi and the other is Riti Singh. They are women officers who have been selected to join as observers in the among the airborne tacticians in the Indian Navy's helicopter stream. So Indian Navy does have a helicopter stream as well, because you might wonder why helicopter, because that should be Air Force, but you must understand helicopters are a relatively small object, so they fit in very well on the ships. And if they're launched from ships for naval warfare or naval reconnaissance मतलब surveillance, spying basically, तो उसके लिए helicopters are obviously very handy. For planes, you need a full-fledged aircraft carrier. That's a far more complex, very expensive task. So India does have, I think, one or two aircraft carriers, but as I said, they are not always easy to use. This, on the other hand, is much easier. Right, so two women have been included. Some data on European football. Now you might see European football. Usually the season ends in May. I'm talking of club football, but this year was a unique year. That is because of the COVID-19 crisis. In the month of March, all football was suspended for at least 2 months, depending on which country you are in. I mean, except for odd countries like Belarus, which continued matches, but generally speaking. So, Germany was actually the first European country to restart matches. I remember it was a great day for me. I started watching football. So, that was in middle of May last year, and then the other countries started following suit. So by early June, every other league in Europe which had decided not to cancel, like the French league and the Dutch league, they had decided to cancel. तो उनका तो अलग टॉपिक है, बट जिन्होंने कैंसिल नहीं किया था, या बेल्जियम, उन्होंने भी कैंसिल कर दिया. जिन्होंने कैंसिल नहीं किया था, they continued with their matches and they restarted in June, July behind closed doors. So in the month of August and stretching into September, actually in August, you had so this was domestic leagues. In August, the European football restarted, the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League, the two competitions for which involved multiple countries of Europe. So usually क्या होते हैं matches में, there are two-legged matches. So if Barcelona plays Bayern Munich, just giving an example, one leg will be in Munich, one in Barcelona. इनका average aggregate करके the team qualifies to the next round. But वो चीज इस बार possible नहीं था, because we wanted to reduce travel as much as possible. So as a result, what was done is only a few countries were selected to host all the matches, neutral venues. So European football, of course, regulated by UEFA. Um, Now, UEFA Champions League, this is the biggest tournament in club football. This was won by Bayern Munich. It's a German club. They defeated the French club Paris Saint-Germain in the final, which was held in Lisbon. So, in fact, all the final few matches in the Champions League were held in Portugal. The four quarterfinals, the two semi-finals, and the final, all seven matches were held in the capital city of Lisbon. And there are two major stadiums in Lisbon. One is the okay, I'll write it down. Two big stadiums in Lisbon. It's known as Lisboa in Portuguese. So one of them is the Estado da Dragão, and the other is the Estado do Luz. Sorry, Estado da Dragão is in Porto, but Estado do Luz is here, and there's one more, which is Jose Alvarado or something. So one of them belongs to the club SL Benfica, the other to Sporting Lisboa. So anyway, let's continue. The final originally supposed to be in Istanbul. Even this year's final was supposed to be in Istanbul, and this year again it has been shifted to Porto, also in Portugal. Right, so bad luck for Istanbul. The Europa League, which is the second biggest tournament of Europe. Next year, by the way, there will be three European competitions. So the Europa League, this has been won by CF Sevilla, which is a club from Spain, and they defeated the Italian giants Inter Milan, who are this year's Serie A winners. The final was held in Cologne. The Europa League matches were all held in Germany, although unlike the Champions League, not in one city and two stadiums, but in four different cities. I think Cologne was one, there was Dusseldorf, and two more I really don't recall. The original venue was supposed to be Dansk in Poland. This year's final will take place there. So this year it has not been moved. An English club and a Spanish club, Manchester United and Villarreal, will be competing for the final this year. Right. Since we are talking of UEFA, I just decided that let's just give you a few more details on UEFA. I remember a couple of classes back I did discuss this, but a quick recall I will do. Yes, welcome Sachin. Good to have you here. Yeah. Right. So UEFA full form is Union of European Football Associations. It's a regulatory body for football in Europe, and it's headquartered in Nyon, which is actually part of Greater Geneva. So अगर एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आए और नियॉन ऑप्शन नहीं है, जिनीवा है, आप जिनीवा भी डाल सकते हो. अगर जिनीवा नियॉन दोनों है, then you go with Neo. Neo is it's like Salt Lake to Kolkata or Navi Mumbai to Mumbai. It is part of the greater city, but slightly outside, related economically and otherwise. ठीक है. So this was founded in 1954, and there are 55 member states, which is actually more than the population of Europe, more than the number of countries in Europe, because some non-European countries are also part of this. Israel is an example, because in Asia things might change now, but for all these years none of the neighbors would play them, so Israel would get a walkover in every game, so they never could practice the game properly. So the others would all boycott Israel, so Israel is part of this. Turkey, which is partly in Europe, because Istanbul's का एक part Europe में है, but mostly it is in Asia. But again, for competitive reasons, they are too good for Asia, so they are in Europe. Another country, Kazakhstan, used to be part of Asia. They've joined Europe because they wanted to earn more money. I mean, that's one of the things, right? Similarly, you have countries like Gibraltar. It's not a country, but it's member of the UEFA. Faroe Islands, not a country, but they have a separate national team. England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, they're all part of the United Kingdom, but they have separate national teams because England invented these sports. So they have that sort of a baptismal rights. Okay, so that's why there are so many members. This is the name of the president. He belongs to this tiny country called Slovenia. His name is Alexander Seferin. The names, one of them is Estado da Luz. Estado da Luz. Estado da Luz. The other is Estado Jose Alveride, named after an ex-legend of the club. Okay, so Doluge belongs to SL Benfica, the other belongs to Sporting Lisbon, the clubs. Right, Harsh, are you fond of football? Okay, so this guy is from Slovenia. Slovenia, I don't know if you're aware of the location. It is part of ex-Yugoslavia. There used to be a country called Yugoslavia, so they were a part of Yugoslavia. Okay, it's actually the richest country from the ex-Yugoslav bloc. Yugoslavia, while breaking up, was a messy divorce, lots of wars and fights, especially between Croatia, Serbia, and Bosnia Herzegovina. But Slovenia was totally unaffected by all of this. It is a first world country in terms of per capita income. In fact, Slovenia was also on the sporting map last year due to the sport of cycling. If you've heard of cycling, cycling का सबसे important tournament, which is Tour de France, the champion and the runner-up were both from this tiny country, in spite of being the biggest event in the sport. So, since we're talking of UEFA, I thought let's also talk about FIFA, which is the world governing body, a Federation of International Football Associations. So, this was founded in 1904 in Paris. So, it's more than 100 years old, well over 100 years. Present headquarters also in Switzerland, in Zurich. Harsh, you told me कि स्टेडियम्स के नाम बताओ. तो मैं स्टेडियम के नाम बता रहा हूँ. ये Estádio da Luz and this thing. It means Stadium of Light in Portuguese. ठीक है हर्ष? Right? Sachin, do let me know if there are any doubts you have. Okay, this person is the president, Gianni Infantino. He's from Italy. He has been the president for the last couple of years. Total of 211 member states, which is a well more than the total membership of the United Nations. Around 20 members more. Again, reasons are similar. There are countries which aren't really countries, so they can't be UN members, but they do have their national football teams, like say the British Virgin Islands. It's not an independent country. It can't be UN members. Taiwan and China both can't be UN members, but they have separate national teams. England, Scotland, Wales. I told you, lots of territories like Gibraltar and Faroe Islands. They have their own national teams. Right, let's move ahead. Okay, so these are actually the confederates. FIFA is the global body, and there are six continental bodies. There are seven continents on Earth. One of them is Antarctica, so penguins can't really play football. They may have been quite handy, but I guess at this point they can't. The other six continents, they all have their own bodies. So let's take a look. UEFA, I told you, is from Europe. For Africa, you have the Confederation of African Football. Easy name. For North America includes US, Canada. It includes the Central American countries, which are Spanish speaking for the most of them, like Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, all of these. Plus, you have the Caribbean nations, some of them Spanish speaking, like Cuba, or French speaking, like Haiti, mostly English speaking, like Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. Right? Okay. So CONCACAF, that's the name, CONCACAF, Confederation of North Central America and Caribbean Association Football. AFC is Asian Football Confederation. India is a member of that. This is easy to understand. OFC is Oceania Football Confederation. So this, of course, includes New Zealand and all the islands in South Pacific. Australia used to be a member of this, but then in 2006, I'll just write that down. In 2006, Australia shifted from OFC to AFC. Why? Because OFC was too uncompetitive for them. They used to win every match by 7 or 8 goals, and then once in 4 years, except while playing New Zealand, and then once in 4 years, when they would play some real, footballing country, then they would struggle. So it was not good for the growth of the sport, and they were not developing as a national team. So they decided to join Asia because obviously it's much more competitive with countries like Japan, South Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Um, I mean, even India would be way better than the South Pacific islands, which obviously are tiny nations, a population of less than a lakh in many cases. Right? It's like playing San Marino or Gibraltar every week. So that was a problem for them. Okay, and finally there's CONMEBOL, which is a South American Football Confederation. I'm not bothering with an exact full form. That's because it's a word in Spanish, because most of South America is Spanish speaking, and of course Brazil is Portuguese speaking. So those are similar languages. So I haven't given you the exact translation. Right, lot about football. I'm sure some of you might be bored of it. So let's talk about something else. So we want to talk about something called Electrion. Please take a look at this. I'll just connect the charger of my laptop. Give me a moment, please. Right. So if you can see this slide, so the city of Tel Aviv, I don't know if you've heard of Tel Aviv. It's one of the biggest cities of Israel. It's actually the commercial hub of Israel. Unlike Jerusalem, which is the historical religious capital, this one has a certain commercial appeal to it. So it'll be the first city in the world to roll out smart roads. So imagine a road. So one of the biggest challenges when rolling out with electric cars, we all know electric cars are good for the environment. They pollute less. Even if they do pollute, it's at one place at a time. But one of the big challenges is that they do not, how shall I put it, take very good to चार्ज कंटिन्यूअस करना पड़ता है। तो चार्जिंग आप कहाँ से करोगे? ऑल नाइट चार्जिंग करना पड़ता है, या चार्जिंग स्टेशन भी बहुत कम है शहरों में। ऑल्दो इन इंडिया नागपुर में काफी बड़ा एक खुला है, तो वो एक बार आप चेक कर लेना। बट दिस इज अ रोड इटसेल्फ विच चार्जेस, सो दैट इज समथिंग विच इज ट्रूली यूजफुल। इट्स अ पायलट प्रोजेक्ट, मतलब कि एक्सपेरिमेंटल एक शहर में लागू किया गया है, और ये पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्टेशन के लिए है। तो पर्सनल गाड़ियों के लिए नहीं है, बट फॉर पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्टेशन। Okay, so this has been developed. The man who is, he's not the developer per se, but he's the project manager, you could say. His name is Mr. Ron Huldai. He's obviously the mayor of Tel Aviv. And the company is Electrion, which is an Israeli company. But this technology was developed in Sweden. You know, Sweden is technologically a very strong country, and also very strong on the environmental side, because they have a lot of initiatives which are to, which are concerned with environmental benefits. Right, let's move ahead. Okay, and meanwhile, you may note down the name of the person who's the CEO. That is Mr. Oren Ezer. Oren Ezer, another Israeli, right, Harsh? Right, moving on to the next point. The Sebi has now come up with a new framework. Sebi is the regulatory body for the stock markets in India. So it's, I don't think I shared the full form. कोई बात नहीं, आप full form note down कर लीजिए, मैं chat window पे लिख देता हूँ. So SEBI stands for Securities and Exchange Board of India. ठीक है, Securities and Exchange Board of India. This is the regulatory body for stock markets in India. Right? Okay. So इनका new framework आया है. They've set up a technical committee on the social stock exchange to develop a framework for um, onboarding profit and non-profit organizations. Now, this is very significant. Non-profit organizations, we don't think of non-profits or NGOs on stock markets, but that is something revolutionary which might take place. अभी तक final confirmation नहीं आया है, but in principle discussion हो चुका है. Bourses are stock exchanges basically. ठीक है, and this is to prescribe disclosure requirements relating to financials and governance. So इसको please star mark कीजिए, बहुत ही important topic है ये. So the technical group will be chaired by Shri Harsh Kumar Bhanwala. He is the former head of NABARD. NABARD ka full form I've shared. I didn't share Sebi, but anyway, thankfully it's here. National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Students often confuse between the two A's. The first one, please remember, is purely ornamental. That is to give it a proper word. The second one is the actual, the what the A stands for. So National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Right, Harsh? You may note down this full form. Right, I'll go ahead to the next one. I hope you've copied it. Please don't take screenshots. लिख लीजिए. आप लिखेंगे important चीजें, so that will be beneficial for you guys. Right. Some more miscellaneous content. So India's first solar power run auto has been unveiled in Tamil Nadu. So it's an auto that will be run by solar power. The name of the company is M Auto Electric Mobility, and yeah, so that will work in Tamil Nadu. Switching on to a different topic, you know, Rafale. Rafale is one of the most talked about military imports in recent years. So there's a lot to do with Rafale. We also have the disclosure agreements. We have the offsetting plans. तो उसके बारे में हम कभी discuss करेंगे. But I think you guys are aware Rafale is a French thing. It's produced by a French company जिसका नाम है Dassault. Dassault is one of the world's leading manufacturers of weaponry. Also, one of the leading plane manufacturers, airliner manufacturers, not just military but even civilian. After Airbus and Boeing, they are among the leading ones. Okay, so Shivangi Singh, that is the name of the first woman pilot from India who will fly Rafale, which is obviously, as you know, India's most modern multi-role fighter aircraft. Okay, so these jets are now based in Ambala. So far, 9 such jets have arrived in India. There was the first five, and there was the next lot with another four. So 9 have reached so far. I don't know if I'm not updated, but last I knew it was 9. So basically, they flew from France and they had an all-night sortie in Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi is sort of located in between India and Europe. So Abu Dhabi, may they spent the night, and then they came. Then they started traveling again and reached India. Right. So I want to talk about the happiness report. There's something called the Global Happiness Report. On similar lines, the government of India has also begun something. ठीक है, एक तो ग्लोबल हैप्पीनेस रिपोर्ट है, एक इंडिया हैप्पीनेस रिपोर्ट है. तो 2020 में पहली बार ये निकाला गया, मतलब काफी 2-3 साल से काम चल रहा था इस पे. 2020 में इट वाज फाइनली रिलीज्ड एंड दिस इज फॉर द स्टेट्स ऑफ इंडिया. सो इट्स द फर्स्ट एवर एनुअल इंडिया हैप्पीनेस रिपोर्ट, इंडिया स्पेसिफिक, एंड स्टडीज हैप्पीनेस इन द 36 स्टेट्स एंड यूनियन टेरिटरीज. Right, so Mizoram has actually topped the ranking, but among the small states. So there are different categories: big states, small states. Punjab topped among the middle and big states, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands topped among the union territories. So three categories are small states, big and middle states, and we have union territories. So these are the three toppers. Please take a look at the names. Right, I hope you've taken it down, everyone. Okay, let's move ahead to the next one. Some more contents on under this India Happiness Report. Chandigarh ranked bottom among the UTs, Uttarakhand among the small states, and Odisha bottom of the large and middle states. This report was released by Professor Rajesh K. Pilania. He's a professor at a really renowned college in Gurugram, Haryana. It's called the MDI, which stands for the Management Development Institute. Okay, some more of the miscellaneous content. Now, Vistara. Now, this is very important. Guys, please mark a star on this. इसको ध्यान से लिखिए. जैसा आप जानते हैं, मैं सारी चीजें लिखने को नहीं कहता, ना ही मैं प्रॉपर अंग्रेजी में लिखने को कहता हूँ. जस्ट बुलेट पॉइंट्स, ठीक है? कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें बुलेट पॉइंट्स में लिखिए. So Vistara is the first Indian airline which is going to offer an in-air Wi-Fi services. So from now on, while flying, not on every Vistara flight, and of course, things are a little uncertain right now. The aviation sector isn't really booming, but I'm just saying that once things are sort of on the path of normalcy, that's when Vistara will be able to offer Wi-Fi services. So this they will be offering for a start only on the Delhi to London route, not across all the routes, only on this one to for a start. And the services are being powered by Panasonic Avionics. Panasonic, one of the world's largest electronics companies. तो उनका एक अलग division है called the Avionics. So Vistara, you are probably aware, it's a joint venture between the Tata Sons and Singapore Airlines. Tata Sons owns little over half, 51%, while Singapore Airlines is on 49%. This JV was drafted at a time when for civil aviation, 49% was the limit FDI quota, but now it has been increased. So next time there is a renewal for this, or there is some other new player coming in, things could actually change the ratio. Right. Tamil Nadu, meanwhile, has become the first state in the country which has unveiled an ethical AI, blockchain, and cyber security policies. AI, you all know, artificial intelligence, but which has obviously a lot of benefits, but there are lots of fears as well emanating from artificial intelligence. So this program tries to reduce that particular gap. Right. Blockchain, I think you guys are aware, it's a technology that creates a lot of these cryptocurrencies. And finally, we have cyber security, so important. Now we have increasing internet payments, we have facial recognition tools. YouTube, I don't know if you guys are aware, yesterday itself came out with new terms and conditions. Google came out because Google runs YouTube. So YouTube has new facial recognition schemes. तो उसके लिए हमें ये cyber security is so important. We're doing so many payments. घर बैठ के we are all working, all faces coming out. So there are kids at home sometimes. There are women who don't want, obviously, that there is a lot of those fears as well. So उसके लिए बहुत ही जरूरी है ये चीज. So kudos to the government of Tamil Nadu. Now, the United Nations and the United Kingdom are jointly going to host a global climate summit in December 2020, the fifth anniversary of the landmark Paris Agreement. But this has now been postponed. तो ये सितंबर का था, इसलिए मैंने दिसंबर का डाला है, बट अभी ये पोस्टपोन हो चुका है. इस साल होगा. ग्लासगो में होने वाला था, स्कॉटलैंड में, but Scotland is a part of UK, but इस साल it has been postponed. Meanwhile, the Royal Australian Navy and the Indian Navy, they had a PASEX naval exercise. Bilateral military exercises when two countries participate together, they learn from one another, and they sort of they have friendly games. It's like a useful training exercise, right? Okay. So this was done in the Indian Ocean region. PASEX is passage exercise. So please understand, PASEX is not a specific um, military exercise, unlike say Yudh Abhyas, या Sampriti. It is not like those. PASEX is when there's one navy and there's another navy. They're just on peaceful purpose. They're just doing their own training, and they suddenly run into each other. समझ रहे हो? They obviously don't engage because they are friendly nations which are not in combat. They're simply training, but they run into each other for various reasons. Obviously, a navy will practice in the oceans and sometimes also in the open oceans. So if they come into each other on the spot, they sometimes suddenly organize these exercises. So PASEX is exactly like that. It is not a pre-planned exercise, but it's good that it was Australia, because Australia and India have been increasingly friendly of the last 12 months because of the Quad. I'm sure you've all heard of Quad, both of us, and also US and Japan. Quad matlab four, quadrilateral ka short. All of us, they share some sort of I would call it enmity, but yes, there are tensions with China regarding certain border disputes, certain territorial matters. So that is why these countries have gotten quite close to each other. Okay, Bollywood star Ayushmann Khurrana. Now, he's the only Indian actor who's featured in Time magazine's 100 most influential people of 2020. There are others as well on this list. I'll talk about them in some time. But Ayushmann Khurrana is the only Indian actor who has featured in it. ठीक है, Ayushmann Khurrana increasingly popular with youngsters because of the fact that he's a star of the OTT platforms. He's done extremely well on these new age cinema, which a lot of youngsters prefer. I'm sure a lot of you would rather prefer watching a movie or a web series on an OTT platform. OTT comprises of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Sony Live, Hotstar, etc. ठीक है, Z5. So many of you would prefer watching stuff rather than going to theaters, not just due to the pandemic, but even before that, a trend was sort of beginning to play out. Okay, let's move ahead. New missile testing. Okay, so India has conducted a successful test fire of its indigenously developed nuclear capable surface to surface Prithvi 2 missile as part of a user trial by the army from a base in Odisha. A lot of the military testings take place in ओडिशा. मैंने आपको बताया था हमारे बहुत सारे न्यूक्लियर जो टेस्ट सॉरी जो मिसाइल टेस्ट होते हैं. सो दिस हैज अ रेंज ऑफ स्ट्राइक रेंज ऑफ 350 किलोमीटर्स. इनफैक्ट मैंने पहले ही क्लास में बताया था, द फर्स्ट क्लास आई टुक ऑन द ग्रेड अप ऐप, द फर्स्ट करंट अफेयर्स क्लास, नॉट द जेनेरिक वंस, द फर्स्ट करंट अफेयर्स. तो हर्ष इसको प्लीज थोड़ा ध्यान से देख लो. अब्दुल कलाम आइलैंड, दिस इज ऑफ द कोस्ट ऑफ ओडिशा. It is on the Bay of Bengal. It was earlier known as Wheeler Island. I think 2016 या 17 में नाम बदला था. पहले इसको व्हीलर आइलैंड कहते थे, अब उसको अब्दुल कलाम आइलैंड बोलते हैं, नेम्ड आफ्टर वन ऑफ द लेजेंडरी प्रेसिडेंट्स ऑफ दिस कंट्री. राइट, ओके, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इसको प्लीज आप लोग नोट डाउन कर लीजिए, बिकॉज मैक्सिमम जो मिसाइल टेस्ट होते हैं, वेर वी लुक एट द रेंज, that obviously takes place on water. We can't do it on land because we are looking at the range. Although इसमें बारूद usually रहता नहीं है, बारूद के बिना रहता है. But even a dummy one, when it reaches, if it lands on, let's say, on top of our houses, it's not going to go down well with anybody. ठीक है. जहां पे हम इंटेंसिटी मेजर करते हैं सॉइल के, वो हम सॉइल के नीचे करते हैं, वो राजस्थान में पोखरान में करते हैं, डेजर्ट में. ठीक है, तो वो अलग चीज है. न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट में हम इंटेंसिटी मेजर करते हैं, उसमें बारूद का छोटा पोर्शन रहता है, तो वो पोखरान में होता है, बिलो द सैंड्स. This is on the ocean. And please don't confuse with Sriharikota. That is of Andhra Pradesh. वहां से स्पेस रिसर्च के लिए रॉकेट्स लॉन्च होते हैं, तो रॉकेट्स एंड सैटेलाइट्स. तो सैटेलाइट फॉर पीसफुल स्पेस रिसर्च पर्पस, दिस इज फॉर मिलिट्री पर्पस. दिस इज मेनली बाय द डीआरडीओ और द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस. ठीक है, दैट्स द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू, ध्यान रखिए. Okay, continuing with it, some of the September current affairs now. Okay, Reliance Jio has announced India's first in-flight telecom service. So this will be available on 22 international routes. ठीक है, फर्स्ट एवर इन फ्लाइट टेलीकॉम सर्विस जो 22 इंटरनेशनल रूट्स पे अवेलेबल होगा. आई एम श्योर मेनी ऑफ यू हैव फेस्ड दिस, दैट यू कांट कॉल अप पीपल when you are on flights, and especially on long flights it can get frustrating at times, especially without Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi has recently been introduced by Vistara, as I just told you 5 minutes back. So Reliance ने अलाउ किया है लैंडलाइन फोन्स होंगे जिनको जिनका लिमिटेड यूसेज किया जा सकता है. So 22 international routes पे they have started. There are packs available for 499, 699 and 999 per day. Obviously, जितना more expensive one you take, the more number of phone calls you can make. Okay, India's first green village is located in the state of Nagaland. ठीक है, अब ये green village क्या है? Village का नाम है खोनोमा. Right now, what exactly is a green village? Let us understand this slightly better. Green village is obviously one, as the name suggests, with the least amount of, with the minimal amount of pollution where mostly it is organic stuff which is used, and we do not use things that pollute the environment. Okay, Singapore will be the first country in the world which is going to use facial verification in its national identity scheme. So this can have a lot of complex, you know, impacts as well, right? Obviously, this is very good for security purposes, but can it lead to the loss of privacy? What do you guys think? Harsh, would you like to give me your opinions? Do you think this could lead to serious compromising of personal privacy? What do you think? Can privacy be seriously affected by this? Could this lead to certain crimes? Of course, we probably trust Singapore in a sense that we probably feel that country will be more ethical, but then again, that is always subjective. Right? Let's see if you've maybe, okay, Harsh feels maybe. Okay, we can have a proper group discussion on this topic someday. You know, we can have two sides. I think somebody new has joined this group, so do let me know what you feel about this. This can have serious ramifications. Right, let's continue another 10 odd slides we have for the day. So, yes, the Indian state of Kerala, they've won an award from the United Nations for its outstanding contribution towards non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable are those, communicable like COVID-19, general stuff which communicate from one to another. उस पे भी ठीक ठाक काम किया होगा. That's a separate thing. Miss KK Shailaja, she's known as teacher. She was the health minister of Kerala. She made a lot of news during the fight against COVID and earlier the fight against Nipah. Uh, she has now been appointed as the party whip after the Left Democratic Front won a second consecutive term. Okay. Meanwhile, the world's first floating green hydrogen project is coming up in Aberdeen, Scotland, which is part of the United Kingdom. Green hydrogen project, matlab, it takes out energy from hydrogen, but it floats on its own without human intervention. So it can actually, it's like a buoy, buoy. It can change its direction depending on where it can get more of hydrogen, and that could lead to greater energy extraction. Right? Okay, let's move ahead. So this is part of a project which is known as Dolphin with a Y. Right, let's understand now about green aviation. So we are doing a lot of things to do with climate change. In fact, we did talk about the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. Later today, I will talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. So just hang on with me, hang on for another 10 odd minutes. I'll talk in detail about the Sustainable Development Goals. In the meanwhile, during that period, if you want, you can search it on the internet, but ideally, without searching, can you tell me the name of the brand ambassador from India who has been associated with the SDGs? I'll tell you the answer sometime later when we do that. Okay, so what is green aviation? It's a passenger plane which has been powered by an HFC, which stands for hydrogen fuel cell. This is successfully completed a test flight in Bedfordshire. In Bedfordshire is in England, in the United Kingdom. It's a zero emission journey hailed as the first ever in the world. This has been uh, this has been done by a green aviation specialist company known as Zero Avia. Right, let's go ahead. This is part of the High Flyer project. The United Kingdom has done a lot for climate change in the last couple of months. When Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, there was a lot of fear, trepidation among a lot of people that he did not seem to be the kind of leader who would who would take climate change very seriously, but he's proven many of us wrong. Him and his government has taken this very seriously. Right. So, in this green aviation project, this high flyer project, they have partnered with Intelligent Energy and EMEC. Intelligent Energy is a private company. EMEC is a semi-government body. I need to answer the bell, guys. Please give me a moment. As promised, I'm back in a moment. So EMEC stands for the European Marine Energy Center. It's a pan-Europe research body which is run from the ATI, which stands for the Aerospace Technology Institute. एरोस्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी इंस्टीट्यूट, ठीक है। देख लीजिए उसको, फिर I'll move ahead. Just on the 6 to 7 slides. Do call us at this number, which is at the bottom. The counselors have recently had an extensive training last Sunday from a renowned trainer, and there was another brief session last Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, as well. So do connect with the team for this purpose. Right, now I'll talk about RRTS. You know the format of my classes. Whenever there's something miscellaneous, I have September current affairs as the headline, and whenever it's something specific, मैं वो specific चीज डालता हूँ. इस क्लास में, आज की क्लास में मैं देख रहा हूँ specific topic बहुत सारे हैं. ओके, तो आरआरटीएस इंडिया स्पेसिफिक है. पिछला वाला जो था प्रोजेक्ट डॉल्फिन या ईएमईसी, ये सारा यूरोप बेस्ड है, स्पेशली यूके. बट आरआरटीएस है इंडिया स्पेसिफिक, वो भी स्पेशली अराउंड दिल्ली. ये बहुत ही हाउ शैल आई पुट इट, इट्स अ रेवोल्यूशनरी प्रोजेक्ट. इसका फुल फॉर्म नोट डाउन कीजिए. You can say it's a cross between the BRT, which did not succeed as much in Delhi, although it's been a grand success in other cities like in Pune. So it's a cross between a BRT and a metro, but the range is slightly far-reaching. So let's just understand. So it's a okay. So Union government has unveiled the first look of India's first RRTS train that can attain a top speed of 180 kilometers per hour. So it's a series of trains which help the communication around Delhi. But this is not a local train which stops at multiple spots around the city. It is not a metro which stops at multiple spots within the city. It has very few stops. The idea is to connect the major points. So there are 3 circuits of RRTS which are being designed. So the design is inspired by Delhi's iconic Lotus Temple. जो पूरा जो hub and spoke model है, वो Lotus Temple जो Baha'i Temple है, Baha'i religion का, it's an religion started in Iran. तो उसके मॉडल में इसको चलाते हैं. तो इसके 3 रूट्स है, जैसा मैंने कहा. एक है दिल्ली, गाजियाबाद, मेरठ। तो आप समझ ही सकते हैं ये उत्तर प्रदेश की तरफ है। जो सराय काले खां वाला एक स्पॉट है जहां पे मेट्रो भी है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बस टर्मिनस। सो दैट इज एक्चुअली द मेन हब फॉर दिस थिंग। वहां से आगे जाता है गाजियाबाद एंड मेरठ, बोथ इन वेस्टर्न उत्तर प्रदेश। Then another is Delhi to Panipat. Panipat is in Haryana. So this will probably have stops in Sonipat and North Delhi. And there is this one is three states: Delhi, Haryana, and Rajasthan. Gurugram is in Haryana, just outside Delhi. Alwar is slightly far off. That is in Rajasthan. It's on the Rajasthan Haryana border. So Delhi, Gurugram, Alwar. That's the third one. So remember Sarai Kale Khan station. That is going to be one of the major this thing. Picture I don't have right now, Harsh. I'll just show you maybe in the next class if you attend. I'll make a note of this and I will share this with you. ठीक है, Harsh? Or you can search it on the internet in the meanwhile. Okay, so I'll talk about CCS. This is carbon capture and storage, another specific topic. So the world's first full-scale CCS project is to come up in Norway, where we are going to actually capture carbon. Carbon एक बार release हो जाता है, उसको capture करने का कोई human-made process नहीं है. That obviously all living organisms, in fact all kinds of organisms, they have some carbon. But this is where जो भी carbon release हुआ है, उसको हम trap कर सकते हैं, ताकि वो बहुत ज़्यादा एनवायरनमेंट को, एटमॉस्फेयर को हर्ट ना करे। तो ये प्रोजेक्ट है वर्थ 1.8 बिलियन डॉलर्स। ऑफ कोर्स नॉर्वे यूजेस इट्स ओन करेंसी, आई बिलीव इट्स कोरोना और समथिंग, बट it's in if you translate it, it becomes 1.8 billion dollars. Company का नाम है Northern Lights. As I said, it's a Norway-based company. It's actually a joint venture between three major European oil majors. Oil majors, they are often criticized. They are panned for being the main reasons for carbon emissions. So they have come together to work on this project ताकि उनका नाम खराब ना हो, and they can actually work towards resolving this. So there's a similar project in southern Norway that is being planned by Heidelberg Cement. So which are the major oil majors? Let's take a look. It's Equinor, Shell, and Total. These are the three oil companies. I'm sure you've heard of them. Equinor का I don't know अगर आपने सुना है कि नहीं, but Shell or Royal Dutch Shell and Total, very well known. Total, I believe, is from France. Right. Okay. So let's talk about the impact rankings 2020. Now this is very interesting. I was telling you कि मैं SDGs पे बात करूंगा. So this one is actually related to the to all the SDGs. Right. I hope all the YouTubers are there, the app users as well. Okay, so this is published annually by the THE, which stands for Times Higher Education. Education के जितने भी international rankings है, दो सबसे ज़्यादा relevant है. एक है QS or Quaker Ailey Simons, the other is THE or Times Higher Education, which is usually published on the Financial Times in London. Okay, so this is a global list which ranks institutes of higher education in terms of their social and political impact, framed around the UN's 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. We'll talk about them in some time. So IIT Kharagpur, which is in West Bengal, this is ranked the highest among Indian institutions at 57th. So guys, this ranking is not about how good the education is at colleges. We have a lot of those rankings. Even the THE themselves have been doing for a long time. But this is about the impact on the environment and the sociological political impact which is framed around the SDGs. So सबसे ज़्यादा SDGs पे काम किस इंस्टीट्यूट ने किया है? तो इसमें आप देखेंगे इंडिया का रैंक इज एक्चुअली बेटर देन इन दी अदर वन. बाकी में जो क्यूएस का हमने रैंकिंग किया था कुछ टाइम पहले, द हाईएस्ट रैंक्ड इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट इज आई थिंक समवेयर अराउंड 170. आई डोंट रिमेंबर द एग्जैक्ट रैंकिंग, बट इसमें वी आर वेरी हाई, 57th. वेरी गुड. रैंक वन ग्लोबली इज यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ऑकलैंड, which is in New Zealand. You know, New Zealand is a country that does take climate change very seriously, under the present leadership as well, taken very seriously. Okay, now what are SDGs? As I said, they are Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 parameters to meet the UN Resolution 2030 agenda. So 2030 तक ये agenda हमें fulfill करना है. When I'm saying हमें, I mean all of us as a planet, all human beings as a species, right? Okay. So this was established in 2015. So it's pretty new. This replaced the existing MDGs. So before this, we had 8 Millennium Development Goals or MDGs replaced by the SDGs. Right. Meanwhile, I was telling you about this thing. So Hollywood producer and former lawn tennis player Ashok Amritraj is India's SDG brand ambassador. There was Dia Mirza as well. She has also been associated with this earlier. ठीक है. सो दिया मिर्जा का नाम आप लोग याद रख सकते हैं. अशोक अमृतराज has recently been appointed to this. Right, Harsh? I hope this makes perfect sense. Okay, so there are 17 SDGs I told you. I'm now over the next couple of slides going to share all of them with you. आपको ये 17 याद रखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. So please don't think you have to memorize mug up all 17. Not at all. I'm just merely sharing them with you. Okay, let's take a look. One is no poverty. I think इस पे तो कोई वो नहीं है. Zero hunger, right? Again, something that is expected. Good health and well-being. Quality education. I hope you guys are all receiving quality education through us. But of course, this targets a lot of people who cannot afford certain things. There's also gender equality, right? It's so important in today's world. And then there's clean water and sanitation. Just read this. You don't need to write all of them or mug up. Just एक बार आप पढ़ लीजिए. That's it. Okay, so let's take a look the list of SDGs. Some more. You've already seen 6. So affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth. Decent, of course. We can't promise everyone great work, but जितना possible है और जितना economic growth हो सकता है. Industry innovations and infrastructure. So industries should innovate in order to have greater employment or to have easier work pressure. In the era of artificial intelligence, this is all the more necessary because there's a lot of fear AI will take away many jobs. There's reduced inequalities between different segments, sustainable cities and communities, and of course, responsible consumption and production. Right, so important for cities and communities to be sustainable these days, and of course for all of us to consume responsibly, also produce responsibly. There's a lot of overproduction which goes waste. We buy stuff which we don't consume, we throw in restaurants. There's a lot of wastage in restaurants. So these are things which need to be tackled here. Right, also climate action, which you can easily understand, is so critical. Life below water. So now this is something some of you might be surprised. How does it concern us? Now, please understand that the amount of microplastics which are there in the ocean, all the water bodies today, is extremely scary because in so many objects that we use, there are plastics, and when we use and throw them, kahin na kahin se they land up in the water bodies. And there are lots of microplastics. कभी कभी वो बड़ा पैकेट नहीं दिखता, but there could be microplastics which are consumed by fishes because the way fishes eat their food, they open their mouth. I don't know if you're aware. Is this a fish? They open their mouth like this, so everything goes in. You must have seen the stomach of whales. You may have seen videos on YouTube. Whale के stomach में कितनी सारी अजीब चीजें पाई गई, कितना सारा प्लास्टिक पाया गया. इवन काउस के स्टमक में पाया गया है, बट ऑफ कोर्स काउस आर मैमल्स. नाउ इमेजिन वाटर के अंदर. So that this is something which is of great significance. There's a patch on the Pacific Ocean which has so much plastic. But yes, some companies are working on this thing. There's a company from the Netherlands which has created a pipeline to sort of sieve out all the plastic. Similarly, life on land, all kinds of life for all organisms, peace, justice, and strong institutions. So important today to have a proper legal system, and of course, partnerships for the goals. Right. So I'm done with today's content. Hope you guys enjoyed the session. If there are any questions, do let me know. Okay. So I'll just keep it open for a couple of minutes in case you have any doubts. And these are a couple of numbers. I've been sharing this on every slide 96500529044. But we also have this one 93195999244. Do feel free to call us at any of these numbers. Our counselors will be happy to help you along. Do send me your doubts if you have any along the way. And of course, we are also there on WhatsApp. So if you can't call, you can also message us 93544999530. Again, we shall be happy to answer your messages here. Welcome Tanish, you got very late. I'm done with today's session. But कोई बात नहीं, आप recording देख लीजिए and you can send me questions if you have any. Right? Okay, so we are also there on YouTube. Do press the bell icon so that you receive notifications. तनीश शायद आपने बेल आइकॉन नहीं प्रेस किया है. आपको नोटिफिकेशंस प्रोवाइड हो जाएंगे सारे सेशंस के लिए. राइट, यू कैन ऑल्सो डाउनलोड द ऐप तनीश. आई स्ट्रांगली रेकमेंड क्योंकि वहां पे बहुत सारे सेशंस है. सो डू सब्सक्राइब टू आवर टेलीग्राम चैनल. टेलीग्राम में यू कैन हैव वेरी गुड डिस्कशंस. आपको हमारा टैगलाइन मालूम है, सही प्रेप है तो लाइफ सेट है. Okay, and finally, we are also there on the Google Play Store. So download our app. You can practice. Yes, thank you, Harsh. Great to have you here. Do attend the next later on class today, 1 p.m. Harsh, I have a session that is a quiz on business awareness. So Harsh, wo miss mat karna. Right, so you can practice topic wise quizzes and of course keep attending live classes. Tanish, the 1 p.m. class is not on YouTube. It is only there on the app. ठीक है. Okay, okay, no problem, Tanish, no problem. You can always see the recordings. Okay, then, if there are no more questions, I will wrap up for the day. It's good weather today out there, so I'll take a bit of a break. Next session is at 1 p.m. So I'll get 1 hour to enjoy the fresh air, I believe. अगर कोई और सवाल हो तो प्लीज पूछ लीजिएगा. चलिए then, thank you so much. Yeah, have a good 1.5 hours, 1 hour 20-minute break, and then we return again. Thank you so much, everyone.